Because if we refuse to accept that from him, then we're not going to be joyful, because there are plenty of miserable Christians too. So it's not like accept Christ and be joyful. It's accept Christ, and then, we're working out our salvation and we're creating that joy in the context of what he's given us. Absolutely. Everything good is from him. So absolutely.
Hey there, you're listening to the Girls Talking Life podcast, and I'm your host, Johanna. If you're like me, you love time with friends. I always leave feeling encouraged, inspired to try something different, or I've learned something new. So why not continue to grow even when we can't be with our girlfriends? We're not made to do life on our own. So in each episode of this show, I'll bring you a girl and her story to give you refreshing ideas to stir your soul. Let's walk this road together. Are you ready to talk life? Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here. We are continuing our series, Summer of Joy, based on Psalm 16:11, and today I'm talking with Lain Ehman. Lain is a best-selling author, life and business coach, and host of A More Beautiful Question, the radio show and podcast to equip women to live as joy rebels and fight back against a culture of worry and fear. On the show today, Lain explains what a joy rebel is, and we talk about ways to be one. We also chat about being joyful even in really difficult times and how to keep functioning when you feel like you might not make it through the day. Lain says we have to accept the joy God has for us. It's not automatic. Right now I'm reading Jeannie Cunnion's new book, Don't Miss Out. It's about living with the Holy Spirit. Jeannie says, we have to activate the Spirit's power. Everyone who's a follower of Christ has the Spirit of God in them, but not everyone uses that power. The power of the Holy Spirit is where that supernatural joy can come in, especially in difficult times. So as you listen to what Lain has to say about creating joy, I hope you'll be thinking about your nearness with the Holy Spirit and ask him to activate his power and his joy in you. Here's my conversation with Lain. Hello, Lain. Thank you so much for coming on Girls Talking Life.
I am so excited to be here. This is just so exciting.
I'm so glad that we connected. And like I was telling you before we hit record, you have a bio that says Joy Rebel. And I was just so drawn in by that. And we will get into that in a few minutes about what being a Joy Rebel is. But first, please just introduce yourself.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me. It's so fun to connect live with people that you've been corresponding with online. So this is really exciting for me. So thank you so much. And my name is Lain Ehman. I'm a radio host and an author and a speaker. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I have 3 children who age ranges from 16 to 23. And my husband and I have been married 25 years. And we were talking about dogs before you hit record too. I have 2 dogs, one in my office, one out. So you may get to hear them. So yeah, so my passion is helping women in particular find their inner light and shine that out to the world in times where the world around us can be really, really dark.
How wonderful. So let's move right into it. What is a joy rebel?
It's somebody who wants to show up and shine that light, whether it's a little matchstick or a little birthday candle or a big torch light, whatever we have in us to give, but we just are not going to turn it over and lay down and say, I give up in this world, because there's a lot of stuff happening, both on a macro level for the world as a whole, down to all of us are dealing with pet stuff, kid stuff, work stuff, finances, housing, spouses, illnesses, everything. And I believe we as Christians are charged with creating that joy, that source of joy for ourselves and our close family, but also shining that out into the larger community. So it's those of us who are willing to say, hey, I'm battling on the side of light and good and truth and hope, no matter what else is going on in the world.
Oh, I love that so much. You talk about 11 different habits that highly joyful people have. And we don't have time to talk about all 11. And you actually do that on your show.
Yep.
I will point people to those episodes. But what are just a couple? What are habits that we could pick up?
There's so many misconceptions about what it means to be joyful. And one of the big habits or beliefs or perspectives that joyful people have is realizing that joy and happiness are not the same thing. That we can, happiness tends to be external. Did we have a good hair day? Did we get the parking place right in front of Target? And did we find the thing on sale? And did we have the right coupon? Those all like our little upbeat moments in our day that definitely are important, and they can be help us be cheerful and look on the bright side and all those sorts of things. But joy goes so much deeper. Joy is like a peace and a contentment that it's going to be okay no matter what's going on around me. So it's being able to be that calm in the storm, or that safe place when everybody else is kind of losing it, which we've seen going on lately, to be able to say, you know what? Yes, these things are happening and they're terrible, and I'm not going to downplay the harshness, but me losing my faith and my source of inspiration, my hope, isn't going to do us any good either. So that is a big one, is just realizing that there's a difference between happiness and joy. And a lot of times people think, well, how can you be happy when, so many people are suffering? And that's not what I'm talking about. It's not bypassing all the bad out there. It's realizing that I can be better able to serve others if I'm coming from a place of inner strength and inner conviction and inner balance and contentment. So that's the big one. And then, there's many, many more. I'm actually writing a book about it right now because I thought, you know what, this would be a great handbook to help people, because there are so many misconceptions about what it means to be joyful. And I think another big one is just gratitude. And again, people get into a little bit of a rote process with gratitude, like November. I'm going to post something I'm happy for every day on Facebook. But it's like, I'm thankful for my family, and I'm thankful for this, and I'm thankful for that. And that's good, but it's really going deeper in that, and just being thankful for even the challenges that we face, or finding things to be thankful with for even in the midst of those tough times, which, if you've talked to anybody who's gone through a huge tragedy, or, cancer, for instance, this is a common one with people who have been diagnosed with cancer. They'll say, I'm not thankful for my cancer, but I'm thankful for the ability to really prioritize, or the ability to reconnect with my family, or the reminder that life is short, and those kinds of things. So it's finding that gratitude within the challenge as well.
I love that. And I think that even being grateful for the small things on a daily basis, I find myself thanking God for hot showers a lot.
Oh my gosh. And, especially when we think I think the pandemic too has showed us how quickly things can be taken away. And so suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, I can go out and sit inside now, and I can go to the movies, and I can do this or whatever. It's really brought us a realization of how precious those things are. And so once we come from that place of gratitude, then we stop looking at what we don't have, and we start really appreciating everything that we do have. And again, not in a sense of, oh, I'm so glad my husband lost his job or whatever it might be, but say, isn't it fantastic that I had family and friends who rallied around us in a tough time, and being grateful for that. And it's like shining a light on those parts of our lives that maybe we don't take or that we do take for granted and we don't fully appreciate, and realizing that there's people out there who don't have those things, and just really holding those close and being thankful for them.
Did you have any more habits that you wanted to share with us?
Oh my gosh, I have a lot, but I don't want to overwhelm people. And I think that's a big thing too, is not feeling like you're going to be joyful every minute of every day, where it's really bringing us back to those reminders of, I have a choice. And that's a big one too, is that I have a choice on how I want to respond to this situation. Yes. And you can see two people go through the exact same thing. One person uses it as a springboard to gratitude and closeness with their family, and somebody else becomes very bitter and resentful. And it can be the exact same thing. And what's the difference? It's the choice they make. And we see it all over the news, people who have everything in the world in terms of material goods, and they're still miserable. And so it's like, okay, they have everything. Why are they not being more appreciative or joyful? And it's that idea of making the choice of where am I going to put my energy? Is it towards everything that's wrong in my life, everything that's wrong with the world? Or am I going to focus on the things that are good and helping those grow? And joy is a choice. It's not something and I even say, we don't find our joy, we create our joys. We're joy creators. So that's another one too that I love.
I have heard you say that, and I just want to ask, isn't God the source of our joy?
I would say yes, he is. Absolutely, because it comes from that. But we create it in conjunction with him, because if we refuse to accept that from him, then we're not going to be joyful, because there are plenty of miserable Christians too. So it's not like accept Christ and be joyful. It's accept Christ. And then, we're working out our salvation and we're creating that joy in the context of what he's given us. Absolutely. Everything good is from him. So absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. That's a good one.
That makes so much sense. Yeah. Thank you for explaining. You, not that long ago, had gone through some difficult.
Oh, yes.
Just some difficulties, just some struggles. Yeah. And just share that a little bit. And then I want to ask kind of how you found your joy, how you created it.
Sure. And that it was really the impetus for the whole idea of, okay, I've got to create it because it's not coming to me. If I sit here, it's just not coming. So I'm going to have to do something to make it. And so this is back in fall of 2019, where it was prior to the whole pandemic thing. Nobody even knew what a pandemic was at that point. So we started going through just as a family. It really felt like we were under attack, where one of my children was diagnosed with some health issues that we didn't know how severe they could be. They could be life-threatening or they could not be. I mean, it was just this whole here, take this, now figure out what to do with it. At the same time, my husband, who has never looked for a job, he graduated from business school and went right into this job and has worked there for decades, suddenly found out that he was going to be leaving that company. And so we're facing that at the same time. So we decided to sell our house, which was its own whole thing. And then and I hate going through it all because it just sounds like, and this happened, and that happened. And I don't want it to make it sound like, oh, I just have the worst life in the world. But it was this convergence of all attacks from every front, where one of my dearest friends from junior high and high school passed away. And she had a chronic illness. So we all knew that she would be passing, but we didn't know exactly when it was going to be. And so that came, it was just like, boom, boom. Like every day I'd wake up and it would be one more thing, because it was all in the period of weeks. So then we were worried about healthcare because my husband, whereas I'm self-employed, he has healthcare. And so he's leaving this job. Are we going to have healthcare? How does that impact what's going on with my daughter?
Yeah.
Trying to sell the house. The buyer backs out, finances. One of my main clients disappeared. And it was just thing after thing after thing. My son, who was a senior in college, ended up bouncing back home because of the pandemic. And then coronavirus hits. So we had all this stuff, and it just felt like weight. It was like I was carrying these boulders, and every day another weight would be added on. And I was just like, God, I cannot, literally, I'd be like, God, I cannot carry this anymore. And I felt like I was in a fight for my life. Like I could easily have cracked under the pressure. And what that would have looked like, I'm not sure. But I was like, I can't go on. I cannot go on.
That is a lot.
And then trying to hold it together for my my other children. And because of the house situation, we had moved out of our house and moved back into our house. I mean, it was just thing after thing. And I go through some of it on my show because it's like a TV show or something where like, okay, what's the trauma that's going to happen this week? And through it all, I did feel like, okay, I can fight or I can just crack. And I'm a fighter. So I said, what do I need to do to make it through this? And it was interesting because in December, I went to a women's event at a friend's church, and it was a Christmas thing. And at the end of it, they invited people to come up and pray with their worship team. And I didn't know anybody. I knew my friend and I didn't know anybody else there. So I went up and talked with this woman who I told her kind of what was going on, and she started praying over me. And she said, what's coming to me is that we know the enemy comes to steal and kill and destroy. You are going to make it through this, but what are you going to let him steal from you? Mm. And that was in December. So all this stuff happened like October to December before coronavirus even happened. But it was really a wake-up call to me where I had a choice. And that's what I was feeling like I did not have before that. It was just like, keep carrying the rocks. I'm going to keep adding rocks to your pile until you just sink to your knees. And I said, I have a choice. I can fight back. I will not let him steal my joy. The enemy is not going to steal my joy. And so what do I need to start doing to hold on to that? And that's where it kind of all began, and working through the process of what joy was and where I could create it, where I already had it, how to keep feeding those areas that were so precious to me, and not let the dark win, because that's really what it comes down to. Are we going to let the dark win? And I just said, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. And so coming out of that, it was like, okay, I did it. What can I do to show other people how to do it? And then in October of 2020, I got the opportunity to have a radio show. And it was just a total God thing where out of the blue, would you like a radio show? What would you talk about? And I'm like, I know what I'd talk about. And here we are. So.
Wow. That is such a great question that she asked you.
Oh my gosh.
What are you going to let him steal?
And I think about that a lot still, because it just puts us back in the driver's seat where we can be under attack, but we still have choices. We still are, we have agency and authority. We have the power of God on our side. So how are we going to use that? And we've got this whole toolbox that many of us never even open because we are used to things happening to us. And that's really what I want to show people, is that even in our worst circumstances, we have weapons and tools and resources that we can use.
So when we are struggling, when we're brokenhearted and just can't even think about maybe how to make it through the day.
Yeah.
What do we do then? And how do we get to the joy?
That is such a great question. I'm so glad you asked that, because it all sounds so great. Like, be joy rebels. Yay. But then when you are in the middle of that, you have a sick child or a sick parent or financial difficulties or bills keep coming or whatever it is.
Yeah, like all of the above.
Functioning. Exactly. How do you keep functioning? And the number one thing that I noticed for me, like the number one thing I had to do above and beyond, pouring it all out to God, like that's first and foremost, knowing that He is there and you can dump it all out to Him. That is the first thing. But the number two thing was, when we do try to think about how am I going to make it through the day? How am I going to make it through the next week? How am I going to deal with this? It becomes overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And what's going to happen next? And all those questions, because that was every morning. I was like, what's going to happen today? What bad news am I going to get today? So I shrunk it down to what I call a 1-inch frame or 1-inch window. It was like, don't even think about tonight. Don't even think about the next hour. What is the next right thing that I have to do right now to keep functioning? Because sometimes when we are under attack, we're just trying to keep functioning. We're just trying to get up and take a shower and take care of our kids and put one foot in front of another. And that's what we have to focus on. That is enough in that minute. And there's so many Bible verses about worry and do not fear. And a big one in this case is, let the day's own troubles be sufficient for the day. Let the minute's own troubles be sufficient for the minute. And so I would wake up and I'd say, okay, what do I need to do first? I need to get up and I need to feed the dogs or let the dogs out. And that is all I would look at. I would reduce it down to that next minute. And okay, now what? I need to wake up the kids and get them online for school or whatever we were doing. What's the next thing I need to do? I need to call the real estate agent. Okay, call the real estate agent. And I wouldn't think, if this, then that, then that, then that, because it was too much. And we don't know. We don't know where God's moving. We don't know what He's doing. And what I discovered over that time period is the things that I'm worried about are never the things that end up going wrong. It's always something you don't expect. Right. So why worry about that? Let's just deal with what we have right in front of us. So if somebody's sick, I need to call the insurance company. I need to call the doctor. I need to get, because it gets so overwhelming. But if we just know the next right step to take, pretty soon that becomes a chain of time. And we've gotten through another day and we've gotten through another day. And then another thing that really helped me was realizing that in this minute, I was okay. I was breathing. I was functioning. My family, my child had this health issue. My husband's work situation, who knew what was going to happen with that and with the house? But right this very second, I was here and I could be present. So it's that whole mindfulness thing of bringing it back to that present minute. Don't look any further and look in this minute and say, okay, I'm okay right now. Because I would say, what else could I handle? I can't handle anything else, but I'm handling this now. I'm still okay right now. And then I was able to find things to be grateful for in that, like the hot shower or the person who bought my coffee for me when I went through the Starbucks line, or just those little things that could easily get lost in the scope of all the things that were wrong. But when I brought it back to this moment right now as a gift, I'm here, I'm alive. What can I do with this minute? That helped, because it allowed me to keep breathing, because sometimes it felt like I couldn't. If I tried to think even a day ahead, it was just too much because there were too many unknowns. So those are big. and then finding ways to help other people. And that sounds really kind of, I don't know, like, I don't know what the word would be, like, oh yeah, go help others. But that's something we've always told our kids is like, when you're in a bad place, find somebody else you can help in whatever way that was. And at the beginning of the coronavirus, there was like a friend that I would text every day because she was pretty isolated. She doesn't have a lot of family. And she just said, would you just text me and just check in with me? Yeah. And I did that like for a year. Every day I just send her a meme or say, how are you doing? What are you doing today? What's this weather like? Just anything to let her know that somebody was there. And then, even just donating books to Goodwill or, whatever you can do in the minute. Because sometimes you have financial resources you can donate. Sometimes you have time. When you're at the bottom of the bottom, you usually don't have a lot of emotional stuff to do. Like, so you wouldn't want to be like on a support phone line or something like that because you yourself are already tapped out. But there's always stuff too. Even if it's just picking up trash outside or, whatever. Just that let me and our family get back some control too, because it just, again, felt like everything was happening to us. But then when we were able to help others, it's like, nope, we have control over this. And it just really helped. All those things just helped.
That was my favorite one of yours because it was something that I wouldn't have thought of, but you're absolutely right. Even the smallest thing that you can do for someone else, it really does make you feel better.
Even if it's just going through your social media feed and leaving positive comments like you normally would just double click and, thumbs up or whatever, and saying, oh my gosh, I love your shoes, or I'm praying for you today, or just going an extra step. It just is, it was so huge because suddenly you can feel the hope grow because we're spreading it.
And I love how you said, don't give from an empty well. Like if finances are, where you're struggling, then obviously you're not going to be doing a lot of donation or donating money kind of thing.
Absolutely. But it all counts, whether it's prayer, whether it's sending letters, postcards to people, whether it's donating money, cooking a meal for somebody, whatever it is. It's not like one's ranked above the other. It's just some way of making the good stuff grow.
Yep, I love those, Lain. Thank you. Your show is called A More Beautiful Question. Can you tell me just a little bit about what that means?
Sure. So I am a big believer again in choice, and that we oftentimes fall into victim mode where we feel like everything's happening to us. And one thing I've really struggled with over my life is worry and fear. And that's something that I grew up very, very fearful, very, very worried. Like I was called a worry wart that was like my first thing that I remember people calling me. You're such a little worry wart. I was like, what does that even mean? And I always felt like my thoughts weren't something I could control. And so what I discovered over the years though, and in my mid and late 20s, was that we really do have choice over where our thoughts go. And in the Bible, we're told to take every thought captive. And so what I discovered is that the questions that I ask myself would send me in one direction or another. So for instance, if I get off our interview today and I think, oh my gosh, why are you such an idiot? Why did you say that about such and such? My brain is going to come up with 100 reasons why I'm such an idiot and how I blew it and all of that, because I'm telling my brain where to go. But if I say, oh my gosh, wasn't that great? Just asking myself, what do I want to remember from our conversation? What can I do to help? Sending my brain in a different direction. It's the questions that tell our brains where to go, because our brains are answerers. They want to answer. And it's like a computer. We're only going to send it in the direction that it's only going to go in the direction we send it. So questions are the way, it's like the reins on the horse. So when I was thinking about the show, I was thinking how I want to help people think more positively, but I wanted to give them something really like a hook that they could hold on to. And that idea is questions. So each week I take a question that we might normally ask ourselves, and I show how just little shifts in that can completely change the way our brains go and the energy and the positive emotions and the joy that we can experience just by shifting those questions. So it's been really fun.
That is so true. And it's just a very captivating.
It is fun to have something that brings up conversation about it. And a lot of times people can relate to it immediately, but they wouldn't have thought of it on their own. And that's what I really love about it. So people are like, oh yeah, that's so true. And it gives people an easy thing to say. Like my husband even uses it back at me, which is so bad. He uses it against me. I'll say, gosh, why isn't this blah, blah, blah? He's like, you need to ask a more beautiful question. Stop asking why and ask why not, or whatever he'll say.
So nice of him to remind you.
It is. At least I know he's listening to my show, right?
That's right. That's right. On your show recently, you talked about community. You had a series on community.
Yes.
That's what we're about here at Girls Talking Life, being with your girlfriends. And I wanted to ask you, how do girlfriends help us experience joy?
Oh my gosh. I love that question. And it's especially fun because I feel like in the last 6-7 years since we've moved to the Phoenix area, I have like the best community of friends that I've had in my life.
Nice.
And I've always had some good friends and, but that whole community of people who are all kind of aiming for the same thing in life. And we all know each other. And because I was always the one who had a friend over here and a friend over here in this group and that group, but they didn't really know each other. And that's fun too. But having this community where we're believers and we go to a Bible study together and just, that it's a totally different level of support. And so that's been great. And friends just, like I was saying, like that when I was going through some of my tough times, seeing people show up for me when I've kind of always considered myself pretty independent. And seeing that happen and accepting that was such a gift for me because I'm the one who's always like, oh, I'll take care of it for you, or I'll do it, or da-da-da-da. I'm good. I don't need anything, but I did need things. And letting them show me that I mattered to them and letting them into a deeper level was really transformative for me and just enhanced my joy too, because we're not made to be in isolation. We're made to be in connection with each other.
Absolutely.
And it's been hard the last year and a half because the isolation has been tough. But knowing people were there, even when I didn't call on them, but knowing that I was in their prayers and in their thoughts. And one of my girlfriends dropped chips and salsa by my house because she knows that's my favorite. And she knows I was going through a hard time. She just brought chips and salsa from the restaurant over to me and just stuff like that. It's just like, oh my gosh, people are being the hands of Christ because he's showing his love for me through them. It's huge.
When you were in your time of struggle, did you have a hard time accepting that?
It did. It was hard asking for people because I didn't want to be, every time they talked to me on the phone, be the big downer. like, okay, like, oh, how's so-and-so? Has John found a job? No, so that was hard. It was hard. Yeah. That's an area that I'm still working on, is being willing to, and I don't know if it's vulnerable, because it wasn't that I didn't want them to see me as weak. It was more like I didn't want to be a burden. So that was an area of growth and something that I'm still working on.
Me too.
I'm the joy rebel, right? I'm not supposed to be the downer. But I kind of spread it out. Like I talked to my sister and then I talked to this friend and talked to my cousin. So I didn't dump it all on one person continually.
Well, Lain, a question that I ask all of my guests, and I know you've been preparing for this.
I'm so excited.
Is for your favorite 5. What are 5 things that you are doing or watching or wearing right now that are your favorites?
I love this. I was so excited to think about this. So the first thing I have is Zenni Optical, and it's a place online, Zenni Optical, where you can get glasses for cheap. And I'm at the age now where I need to wear reading glasses, but I don't always want to wear the same ones. So, the frames start at like $3. Like it is so inexpensive. And I ordered my daughter's from there. You can upload your prescription. Super easy. Takes a little bit longer to get because I think they're probably made overseas somewhere. But I've been super pleased with them, and a huge selection. And like you can upload your photo and try different glasses on. And like I've got so many different pairs of reading glasses now, and it's super fun because I can use it like as a fashion statement.
Yeah, that is fun. I wear glasses to see far away, and I have one pair because they're so expensive, and I keep them for years.
Yes, try Zenni Optical, and you can choose if you want like blue light coverage or anti-scratch or transition lenses. It's like just a traditional place, but it's super cheap. Like I think my daughter and my son and I all got glasses and it was like $120 for all of them. So, and of course they weren't picking the $3 frames.
Right.
So that is number one. Number two is my air fryer. I just got an air fryer and I never really fell in love with the Instant Pot. Like some people just go crazy for the Instant Pot. I use mine, but the air fryer has been super fun. My daughter and I are really enjoying using our air fryer and trying new recipes and trying, reheating stuff in there. So that's been fun. So I've been enjoying my air fryer. And then I've got Scribd, which is, everybody knows Audible, which is an online audiobook place where you can have a subscription and get credits for audiobooks. I used to do that because I spent a lot of time in the car driving my daughter around. But I found this place called Scribd. It's online. It's Scribd. So Scribd, I think it's pronounced Scribd. And it's like Audible, but they have ebooks and they have audiobooks, and it's unlimited. So you pay a monthly fee, and then you get as many as you want during the month, which is super cool because I would go through my Audible credits so quickly. And on Scribd, you don't own the book. So when you stop your subscription, you don't get access to it anymore. So that's one difference. But I'm never really going back and re-listening to audiobooks. So I love it. And if people go, is it okay if I give a link on that one?
Yeah.
Because people can get 2 months free if they go to lainloves.com, Scribd. So Lain, lainloves.com/SCRIBD. They can sign up and get 2 months free and test it out. I think you usually get 1 month. So if you use the link, you get 2 months. So
okay.
Go direct instead of using my link. That's fine.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
And I read tons of books. Like I listen to and read. And that's one of the things I do on my Instagram channel is do 30-second book reviews and stuff like that. So it's been awesome. My next thing is my red light bulb. You're going to crack out because you're young. I'm old. I have to take care of my skin. So my friend who looks fabulous and is in her 60s, I was like, what do you do for skincare? She's like, I use a red light. So it's a red light bulb you can order off of Amazon. It's like $25. And red light is like the new thing for collagen production, and athletes use it for like injury recovery and stuff like that. So people can investigate that and check out their red light bulbs. So
I have not heard of that.
I don't know. Every day I'm like asking my daughter, do I look younger? And she's like, yeah, Mom, you look really young. So
I think your skin looks great. I'm going to look up that light bulb.
Try your red light. And then my local coffee place I'm just addicted to. It's called Black Rock Coffee. I think it's just in California and Arizona, but it's like one of those things that when you say my favorite things, it's just, I'm there every single morning and they're just so nice. And I just love my Black Rock coffee. So, so that's it. Those are my 5.
I love those, Lain. Thank you.
Sure.
I am so glad that we got to talk. I love your message for women and your encouragement for them to be joy rebels. I am inspired by your podcast, and I really just love what you have to say.
Thank you. And I love what you're doing too, and using your platform to encourage people. It's just so needed right now. And I love the opportunity that we've had to work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Lain. Thank you so much for listening. I loved getting to know Lain a little better. And I want to know, are you a joy rebel? Are you shining your light? Is there someone who you could show up for this week? Someone who's going through a tough time, who you could be the hands or feet of Jesus to? Be sure to find a more beautiful question with Lain Ehman to explore other ways you can reframe the questions you're asking. As always, everything that we talk about can be found in the show notes for today's episode on girlstalkinglife.com. Friends, don't let the conversation stop when the show is over. Share your stories and start your own conversations with the girls in your life. I hope you are experiencing joy this summer. I will see you back here in 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning in.